Can you picture a time when Apple, one of the biggest names in tech, was close to shutting down? It sounds impossible, but it almost happened. In the late 90s, Apple was only 90 days away from saying goodbye. They were losing money fast. A shocking $816 million in just 1 year. It seemed like Apple, the creator of the famous Macintosh, was being left behind. PCs were everywhere, and Microsoft was leading the charge. But just when things looked their worst, a familiar face returned. Steve Jobs, who once led Apple, came back. This isn't just a story of a company finding its way back. It's a tale of amazing new products, big changes, and a leader who wouldn't give up. Get ready for a journey filled with surprises, where Apple faces huge challenges and makes an unbelievable comeback. Are you in? Welcome back to a time when Apple was on top of the world. In the 70s and 80s, two friends, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, started something big. With bright ideas and a lot of hard work, they brought Apple to life, and it quickly became a hit. Their first creation, the Apple I, wasn't just any old computer. It was the start of something new and exciting. Even though the price was a bit odd at $666, it was a sign of the cool stuff to come. Then came the Apple II. Now this wasn't just a follow-up. It was a game changer. In the first year alone, it made a massive $1 million, and Apple was making a name for itself, not just as a business, but as a movement of fresh new ideas. In the world of tech, Apple's success was like a hit movie. The 80s saw Apple growing fast and creating things people loved. The company even went public, and it was valued at an impressive $1.2 billion at the close of the first day. Remember the famous Macintosh in 1984? The computer that said hello to the world? With Jobs' showmanship, it wasn't just a product launch. It was a major event. Apple was more than a brand. It was a lifestyle, a statement, a way to think different. But nothing lasts forever. As the 80s ended, problems were brewing. Apple was flying high, but a storm was coming. The company that seemed unstoppable was heading for tough times. As we step into the 90s, things started going south for Apple. The company that once shone bright was now facing dark times. After Steve Jobs left in 1985, things just weren't the same. Apple was like a ship lost at sea. Now the tech world is tough and competition is always fierce. Microsoft was rising fast and PCs were taking over. Apple, once a star, was now struggling to shine. The company tried to keep up. They released the Macintosh TV and the Newton message pad, but instead of hits, they were misses. Customers weren't buying, and losses were piling up. In 1996, Apple faced a massive loss of $816 million, and the leadership was shaky too. CEOs came and went, and none could stop the fall. The stock price hit a rock bottom of $330. It looked like the end was near for Apple. In 1997, Apple was super close to going broke. They had too many products, and most of them just didn't click with the customers. Sales were down by a huge 30%. Apple, the big winner of the 80s, was now losing. The tech world was changing fast, and Apple couldn't keep up. Microsoft's Windows 95 was everywhere, and PCs were the big thing. Apple felt old and left out. But even in tough times, there's always a glimmer of hope. Steve Jobs came back, and although Apple was still struggling, something started to change. Jobs compared Apple to a sinking ship, but he wasn't ready to let it drown. Despite the new energy Jobs brought, the 90s were still hard for Apple. The company that once led the pack was now far behind. But remember, after the rain comes the rainbow. Now, we're stepping into a time when Apple began to turn things around. It's the late 90s and early 2000s. Steve Jobs is back, and he's got some tricks up his sleeve. In 1998, something cool hit the stores. The iMac G3. It wasn't just another computer. With its bright colors and unique shape, it stood out. And people loved it. Apple sold 800,000 units in just 5 months. Now Apple wasn't just getting by, it was growing again. They went from near bankruptcy to making profits. In the blink of an eye, the company that was almost forgotten was back in the game. And the hits kept coming. Remember the first time you saw an iPod? That little gadget that let you carry a whole music library in your pocket. It wasn't just a music player, it was a revolution. And it made Apple cool again. The first Apple stores opened their doors. People flocked in, not just to buy, but to experience the world of Apple. By 2004, these stores were everywhere. Then in 2007 came a game changer, the iPhone. It wasn't just a phone, it was a piece of the future right in our pockets. And it didn't just sell well, it took over the world. Apple sold 6.1 million units in the first year. Now we're looking at a new Apple, a company that rose from the ashes, ready to take on the world again. The story of Apple is like a movie with twists and turns, highs and lows, from almost going broke to becoming a tech leader again. Apple's journey is a lesson in never giving up. So are you excited to see what comes next? Stick around. The Apple story is just getting started.